Hello bookworms, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another BooktubeSFF Babbles topic and it's recommendations for buddy reads. So a couple of housekeeping things before I get into the meat of this video. First of all, I wanted to make sure that anyone who is participating in the BooktubeSFF Awards is aware that we have extended the reading period. Hopefully you've already heard about this. It was on some of the other social media platforms, but I never verbally mentioned it in my videos. I've had the updated schedule in some of my description boxes, but in case you haven't heard yet, we have extended the reading period until the end of May, and the voting will start on June 1st, and we'll have the judges live show sometime in June, still to be determined. We wanted to extend the reading period because some people were having trouble reading right now with the state of the world, myself being one of those people. Luckily, I think I'm starting to come out of that slumpiness now, but also because most libraries are shut down and it has become harder for some people to access some of the books that they were planning to read for the shortlist. So we wanted to give everyone more time to source the books, to read the books that they want to read, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew. So reading period now ends on May 31st, and voting will begin on June 1st. So the BooktubeSFF Babbles topic that I'm covering today is SFF books to buddy read. I am a little bit late on this. This is the Babbles topic schedule here, and this was the topic actually for last week between like April 15th and April 22nd, but I'm just now getting around to doing this, and as a heads up, the next BooktubeSFF Babbles topic will also be late for me on my channel, but I do still plan to do it. This topic was actually kind of hard for me because I had to really think about what makes a good buddy read, or what type of book makes for a good buddy read. And I came up with a list of 5 books or series that I thought I would share with you. When I first started planning out this video, I actually started including a lot of information about how I buddy read, or how I like to buddy read, different tips and tricks that I've kind of figured out over the last few years with doing a lot of buddy reads. But that information kind of added up to a lot, so I'm actually thinking that I might do a whole separate video about how I do buddy reads and different platforms I might recommend, and just like some tips and tricks. So let me know in the comment section if that is a video that you are interested in, because I definitely have some thoughts, or more like opinions, on how to buddy read. And maybe some of you guys are interested in doing buddy reads but don't know how to start one or go about it, and maybe you would find that video interesting. So let me know what you think down in the comment section. Okay, now on to the meat of this video. Sorry, that was a long intro. So like I said, I came up with a couple different kinds of books that I think are fun to buddy read. So the first category that I think of as being fun to buddy read are thrillers, or really anything that has big twists, or something that could be a surprise to the reader, especially if you're the type of buddy reader who does a schedule and checks in every certain number of chapters or pages sort of thing. Oh, I also want to put out there that these are not all books that I have buddy read. Some of them are ones that I've buddy read. They're all ones that I've read, but some of them are just ones that I think would make for good buddy reads. So when I think of fun, surprising thrillers, of course the first one that comes to mind is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I know you guys have heard me talk about this book many times before. Obviously it is one of my favorites, and while this isn't one that I personally did a buddy read for, it's one that I think would be really fun to buddy read. Honestly, one of the reasons why I recommend this book all the time is because it's one that I feel like is very accessible to people who don't read a lot of science fiction. In my opinion, it's very action-packed and interesting from the very beginning. The pacing is great, and it's a book I often recommend to people who don't read a whole lot, because I think that it kind of reads like a movie, and I feel like it's a great recommendation for people who don't read because it's just so much fun. This book definitely had a few surprises for me and had some philosophical things that I thought were really interesting to discuss. I did actually read this for a book club, so I did get a little bit of that discussion piece, but I think it would have been really fun to have had discussion ongoing in the middle of reading it too. In case you haven't heard of what this book is about, Dark Matter is a sci-fi thriller, and at the beginning of the book, the main character, who is cooking a nice dinner with his family, runs to the store to pick up a few more things for dinner, but then gets kidnapped. And when he comes to, he wakes up to a life that in some ways seems similar to his life, but there are a few things that are different, like his son doesn't exist and him and his wife never got married.
Hey guys, Editing Jade here, and I just wanted to pop in real quick because as I'm editing this video, I have realized that the next book that I talk about is not an SFF book. I don't know how I didn't think about that when I was putting this list together. The rest of the list are SFF books, but this next one is just a straight up mystery thriller. So I apologize about that, but I didn't want to remove it from the list because it is a book that I recommend as a buddy read. But I did want to clarify that it is not SFF, technically. My bad.
Another thriller that I actually did do a buddy read for that I thought was a lot of fun to buddy read was Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is an adult thriller, and I buddy read this with my friend Rachel from the Shades of Orange. This story is about a young woman who, at the beginning of the book, loses her job, finds out her boyfriend is cheating on her, so breaks up with him and moves out. And now she needs a new place to live and a new job. She answers this ad in the newspaper looking for an apartment sitter in this really fancy building in New York. And the pay is like incredible. There are some like weird rules in place, but she decides that she really needs the money, and even if things are a little weird, she can explain it away. So she takes the job and things go from there. I had so much fun buddy reading this with Rachel. It was a lot of fun to run our theories past each other as far as like what we thought was going on, and then when we find out what's going on, it was fun to talk about what that was like and if we expected it or not. And that's why I think that thrillers are such fun books to buddy read, because you can talk about what you think is going on and then there'll be like a twist or a surprise, and you guys can either both be surprised or one person can be like, oh, I saw that coming and this is why. And I just think thrillers are so much fun to buddy read. So that would be one that I have buddy read and can say it was a lot of fun. So I mentioned when I talked about Dark Matter that that book had some like philosophical things that were fun to discuss as a group. And another book that I would recommend along those lines is Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is an adult sci-fi book that I buddy read with my cousin Shannon from the channel That's So Po, who I will link down in the description box. Anybody that I mentioned in this video will be linked in the description box. I had so much fun buddy reading this with Shannon. It's kind of like a first encounter sort of story, but not really, I guess. But it explores a lot of philosophy around like evolution and like what makes a species intelligent and how to communicate with other intelligent species and how people and languages evolve over time. Just a lot of like really intellectually stimulating things, and she and I had some really interesting conversations around this book as we were reading it. There were so many different things, like she would pick up on things that I hadn't picked up on or thought was interesting and vice versa, and it was so much fun to buddy read. Shannon actually did this BooktubeSFF topic and included this book as a buddy read that she really enjoyed and recommends as well. So we both had a lot of fun reading and discussing this book together. Okay, and then my last two recommendations, they're both longer fantasy series, but the main reason why I want to recommend them is kind of along the lines of thrillers. There's some twists and surprises in these fantasy series that I think are really fun to discover with a friend. First, I'll talk about the Lightbringer series by Brent. I have not read the whole series yet, but I have read the first 3 books out of 5, I believe, maybe 6, but I think 5. And while I don't wholeheartedly love the series, there are definitely things about it that I enjoy. One of those things being some of the really big twists and turns and surprises that Brent Weeks throws into these books. Honestly, they're the main reason I have continued on in the series, even though there are some things that I don't love about them. But the twists just so far have really surprised me, and I think that it could be really fun to read this with another person. The Lightbringer series, if you're not familiar, is an adult high fantasy series with a really cool hard magic system involving colors and a lot of political intrigue, and it is quite dark. I do have a couple of reviews, and these books have obviously been in wrap-ups. You can check those out if you're interested in some of the reasons why I don't love this series, but it is one that a lot of other people really enjoy, and I can totally see why. Regardless, I think it would make for a fun buddy read experience. Okay, and the last book/series that I have to recommend as being fun for buddy reading, I'm sure will come as a surprise to no one, but I highly recommend buddy reading the Wheel of Time series. Believe it or not. This is another series that I feel like has some twists and surprises. Maybe not twists in the same way that Lightbringer does, but there are some like really fun big moments that happen throughout the series, but also Robert Jordan writes such a layered story in this series that this is fun to buddy read, not just with someone who hasn't read it before, but with someone who has. I personally did get to experience this a little bit. If you're not aware, I did a read-along with this series that I co-hosted with my friend Roya from Unicorn Hunter Books. She read the series for the first time, and I had read like 9-ish, 10-ish books of it before, some multiple times, but I hadn't read the end of the series, so some of it was still a fresh read for me and some of it was rereading, and it was so much fun to read this with her. We did do a series of live shows, one after each book, and it was so interesting to see the things that she picked up on compared to the things that I picked up on, especially for like the first half of the series where I knew things really well, and she would, you know, talk about things that I knew were like hints at stuff that were coming, or I knew were like Easter eggs for things. So this series is one that has a lot of Easter eggs for rereaders, and I think series and books like that are a lot of fun to buddy read, either for the first time together or with someone who's read it before. I will say it is really hard to find someone who will read the whole series with you. It is 14 books, 15 with the novella. So I got really lucky in finding someone who was willing to do a whole read-along of the whole series with me. There are a couple other read-alongs happening right now. I know there's one on Instagram that Delaney is running. There's some booktubers that were doing a read-along. I'm not sure if that's still going. Actually, maybe 2 booktuber groups. And also, just the other day, I saw on Twitter that the Wheel of Time on Prime Twitter account, the official like show Twitter account, said that they wanted everyone to start a read-along of the series too. So there's plenty of ways to find other people to read these books with, but I think they are so much fun to read as a group. There's just so much stuff to discuss in these books, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm biased. It's my favorite fantasy series. If you haven't heard about the Wheel of Time series, I don't know how, because it's a very popular series and it has been around for a very long time, but I do have a video about things you should know before you start the series, and I will link it in the description box. But there is a show coming out for it soon, so now is the time to be reading it. Alright guys, those are 5 books or series that I think make for good buddy reads. I love buddy reading. I just think it is so much fun to discuss books with other book lovers, and I just think it's so interesting that growing up, reading was such a solitary activity, and now in this day and age, it's much easier and much more accepted to share our love for books with other readers. Alright, that is all I have for this video. If you have read any of these books and agree or disagree with me about how they would make good buddy reads, or if you have recommendations for books that you think are good buddy reads, leave them for me down in the comment section. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. That is all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bookworms, keep reading. Bye.